little bit of background. I am a professional raconteur. I have been known to tell a lie on occasion, only when it was absolutely necessary. If you don't want to stay here and listen to this, you will not hurt my feelings. The stories that I tell in competition all over the city I live in. So it's not that I'm coming to you just out of the blue, okay? If you're not interested, please feel free to go. If you get up while I'm telling, you know what else Cowboys care? So anyway, I've started this off now. If I were coming on stage, this is how I'd come on. Routes that ring like bells in the night. And I sing a horrible song. Silver spurs in the Texas moonlight. Hooves that echo out over the hill. And a memory that thrills. My heart, my heart, my heart. Like the ring of his spur. It was late summer, 1963. I was a young man. Hell, I was a boy. I was living in the Far East. My father was assigned to the government. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And I was going to high school. And I lived out on the bluff in the town of Yokohama. And out on that bluff, we lived next door to the French consulate. And it just happens that the French consulate had a daughter about my age. Now, I'm not saying that I was a peeping Tom. And I'm not saying that I didn't look in their windows. They knew I was there. I didn't leave, those marks on the window panes. This young lady, and I would watch her, and she was homeschooled. I went to a military high school for military dependents, Nagasaki, Naval Dependent School overseas, Yokohama, Japan. But every day I would come home, and it would be about the time that this young lady was in the gymnasium. And you could see her. First position. Second position. Third position. Plie. And I would come home and I was mesmerized by ballet. First position. Second position. Third position. Plie. As time went on, and every day I would come by. One day I came by, and she was not standing at the bar. You could see cold steel flashing in the sunlight. And you could see the instructor, and it wasn't first position. Second position. Plie. It was on guard. And it was the flash of cold steel. And you could hear the steel clanging on steel. And it goes as the sabers crossed. I was in love. It was almost more than I could stand, and I stood there crazy. Time went on. Did I forget that little French girl? More about that later. I had graduated from high school, and my father asked me, did I want to go back to Texas? Or as an option, I could go to a young man gentleman's finishing school in Germany. I'd kind of like to go to the young man's finishing school in Germany, Father. So my family all went back to Texas. I went to Germany. And I walked into these old building. And you could hear the boot heels echoing off. Yeah, no spurs, just boots. Echoing off there. And in the distance, when you went in to matriculate to sign up for what you were going to do, then they give you a tour of the facilities. And you would go in there, and I could hear in the distance. It was cold steel. I could hear it. And I was drawn like a moth to the flame. And I went in, and inside the gymnasium was the saber master. And all these young men were standing around, and they were all holding edged weapons. It was almost more than I could take. The saber master recognized that I was in distress. And he asked me to come up for a demonstration. Well, of course I went up. And he come up and he said, "Do you know anything about fencing?" I said, "Yeah. Because I've watched 7 Samurai by Kirikawa at least 100 times. Fool! You have to do it. How many know that move? So I'm staring, he's on guard, and I'm fool! He was not real impressed. But over the 6 months that this school lasted, he and I became pretty good friends. What I couldn't do with skill and dexterity in the saber fighting world, I made up for with enthusiasm. It was time for me to rotate back to the United States. That's a military term that I know you all know. It was time for me to go back. And he asked me to come up on the stage. And he got this weapon out of a drawer that I had never seen. And that dirty, it was sharp. And it had an edge on it. And he says, "On guard." And he cut me long and deep right here on the cheek. Of course, I screamed like a little girl, ran out of the auditorium. Blood just gushing out of my head. And I went home, went to college, did some time in the North Atlantic with a classmate. Time passed. Oh, I married that little French girl. Sure. So we set up. I finished my school because I wanted to be a cowboy. And so I went to this little cow college in East Texas. Texas A&M. And I finished a couple of degrees there. My kids went there. All of my money goes there. And I did wear a maroon shirt all day up until the end of the game, and then I took it off. So anyway, my wife, we moved to a little town where I was ranching, and my wife got a job as a librarian. It was pretty easy. They said, "Sir, you can read. Why don't you be the librarian?" Okay, it wasn't quite that bad. But anyway, she was the librarian there, built a nice library with no government funds. Now to do this, this is true. In order for her to do this, she had to scam money from all the people that were there. And I spent a lot of time in the cedar breaks. How many understand in the cedar breaks? Out here, we have cedar trees. The cedar breaks are in the woods. You don't ever come out. You stay back there looking for lost cows. So anyway, I didn't know a lot of these people, but she was scamming the money off up to build this library. And she says, we have been invited to dinner by one of our patrons. And you will clean up and go to dinner. Yes, dear. For all of you guys that don't understand that, practice this. Yes, dear. Yeah. So anyway, there we were. We were going to dinner. And I walk in, and I immediately recognized an airplane propeller. Because I'm really that smart. There's an airplane propeller with the letters C-A-G and an épée mounted on the airplane propeller. Raise your hand if you don't know what an épée is. Okay, an épée is a very light, competition-grade weapon that they used to sword fight with. You'll see it in the Olympics. And they normally put little balls on the end of it so you don't put the pointy end through somebody. So anyway, but it is, yes, it's a sword fighting, a fencing tool. So anyway, I walked in and the CAG saw my ring. There's only 2 people that still wear their college rings normally. Academies and Aggies. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. Because this ring will open as many doors as any academy ring will. Anyway, I go in and he sees my Texas A&M ring, and he starts ragging on me about Texas A&M hasn't introduced anything into the world of fencing since the Bronze Age. They don't know anything about fighting with edged weapons. They are knuckleheads. And I stayed in the shadows. Candlelight, wine, I don't know, chicken, fish, I don't know, something that a CAG would serve. Probably something with wings, I don't know. Yeah. Good, Barbara, you want to say that out loud?
Commander Air Group.
Yeah. He was in charge of the air group on an aircraft carrier. And so anyway, he was on the 1943 championship University of Texas fencing team. I didn't say a word. I walked up there and I sat down at the table. And when the candlelight flickered, and it flickered on the scar that was left by the saber master. And that's like a signature of a favored student. He saw the scar. He recognized the signature. You know, when Roger and I get together now and we start talking about fencing, we're stretching barbed wire. My name is Brad Collins, and I'm a storyteller from Marble Falls, Texas. Thank you.